We bring in GOP financier Dan Palmer from the great state of California. Oh, Dan, because the first time the president threatened to shut down the border, that worked out so well for him. Smart to go back to the well for a second time?
You know, either side of the aisle you're on, you can't look at the border and say, gee, we've got control of it. I mean, this week, Jay Johnson, who used to work for Obama as Secretary of Homeland Security, said, look, any day that we're over 1,000 people crossing, we're overwhelmed. And they had a day this week at 4,000 people crossing. The president's positioned correctly here that the border is a national security issue with a humanitarian element. Something's got to be done. You can't keep going at this rate and leave it as is.
Didn't you just make the point, though? How do you shut down the border? Conceivably, illegal immigration should already be shut down right now. That's why there's troops on the border. That's why we're spending billions of dollars a year to do it. If you shut down the legal border crossings, isn't that just hurting the very people who are trying to either get back and forth for trade legally, very people who are trying to come across legally, American citizens inside Mexico? Why does the president insist on giving this argument away to Democrats when you offer something that seems on its face so contrary to American interests?
Same reason you caution the reporters who report into you from the border, hey, be careful. It's dangerous. Talk about vibrancy of trade, you know, the way Senator Udall is talking about. It's vibrancy of trade for cartels. You know, the problem is this border is out of control.
Dan, reasonable people can agree that if you shut down all trade across the southern United States border, the economy in your state would go into a spiral in a matter of hours.
Oh, that's not true at all, Leland. You know, if something's unscheduled, it certainly has greater impact. Something that's, you know, spontaneous is very difficult. But if people understand that the border is going to have a different set of rules and a different regime, people will plan for it. The situation on the border is an intolerable one. Democrats are going to argue that the president can't do this, but somebody has to do something. There's a complete abdication on the part of Congress, and they're a failure.
How does shutting down legal trade through ports of entry, how does shutting that down by closing the U.S. border, how does that somehow, A, make things safer, or B, stop people from crossing illegally that the president says is an emergency?
Closing the border is going to have multiple effects. Trade is one effect. The other effect is the 4,000 or so people who tried to cross into the United States in order to seek asylum are going to be held prior to entering the country. So this is going to have multiple effects for different constituencies. The most important constituency here is not the people trying to enter the country. The most important constituency are American citizens who are adversely affected by the absence of control at the border. And that's what the president's working very hard to try to establish. That's got to be the paramount consideration.
All right, move on to the economy. You and I have talked about this before, of a President Trump running in 2020 on the economy. Here is Larry Kudlow from the administration talking about interest rates and what they want to have happen going into 2019. Take a listen.
In the absence of inflation, with some of these global threats, our view is at some point, I don't know about the immediately, that may be a misquote, but at some point, I wouldn't mind seeing the Fed drop their target rate.
All right, they've been talking about a half a point as growth seems to be slowing. In layman's terms, a half a point interest rate drop is a little bit like giving a 7-year-old 3 Cokes in terms of what it does to the economy. Is this tacit admission by the administration that going into 2019 there's reasons to worry about the economy?
Look, this is a bargaining position. They're talking up a 50-point change. If they get a 25-point change, it's a win. The Trump economy is based on growth. He wants both feet on the accelerator because that's what benefits regular, everyday working Joes. Wages rise when growth is at a faster clip. Now, obviously, there's a worry about inflation, and so you have to, you know, temper that with some rate increases now and again. But Jerome Powell came to the microphone this last week and said, we see a different climate now in the first quarter than we did in the fourth quarter, and he's admitting the risks of the headwinds of trade and the recession, de facto recession in Europe. These are all factors that are slowing the global environment and affecting the United States economy. So the markets react on sentiment, and the sentiment is based on the direction. And if the direction has been upward, sentiment is more risk off. The president wants risk on. So signaling a rate cut is more appropriate, whether it's 50 basis points or 25 basis points is the right signal. We want risk on. We want a growing economy that grows wages. The wages are the most important thing going on here. We need everyday people to be making more money for the hard work they do.
Well, certainly for the president's reelection, wages going up would be a helpful thing. Dan Palmer in California. Dan, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Leland. Thank you.
All right, we'll get back to health care now with the freshman Democratic congressman, also from the state of Illinois, member of the House Financial Services Committee, Sean Casten. Good to see you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll get to Jesse Smollett in a minute, but what the congressman was talking about health care, has the president given Democrats a gift here by now talking about health care and going back to that rather than focusing on making Democrats answer for Medicare for all?
Look, I wish we could talk about this from a policy perspective. The Democrats, in my experience, are not advocating Medicare for all. It's a talking point. There's
a lot of senators who've signed on to the bill, sir.
Let me tell you what matters to me.
Okay.
I've spent 20 years as a chemical engineer and an entrepreneur and a CEO. I provided health care for all my employees. Every single country that has universal health care spends less per capita on health care than we do. The ACA took us in
almost every single country that spends less per capita and has universal health care has terrible results.
That's category.
I've experienced the NHS in the United Kingdom. Their health care results are terrible.
That is simply not true. If you look at the mortality amenable to health care, countries with single payer systems, which is what you described with the NHS, have slightly better outcomes and much lower costs. I don't advocate for that personally.
Countries that have huge waiting lines, and they have terrible standards of care, and they've got infection rates out the wazoo.
This is a straw man argument. Countries that have universal health care with multiple providers, like Switzerland, like Germany, they still have universal health care.
Okay.
They have a competitive discipline in their system that keeps it honest. I'm an entrepreneur. I like competition. You can have universal health care with multiple players. Those countries, without exception, are cheaper than our system, slightly more expensive than the NHS models, and have better outcomes than any other country in the world. The ACA was the beginning of a move in that direction. It wasn't complete. We should be protecting it. We should be expanding it to make it truly universal health care, to maintain that competition in the system. And unfortunately, we're playing defense right now in a world where...
When you say we, do you mean Democrats or you mean the United States?
I mean we, the United States, because we are in a point where the executive branch is not defending the laws of the United States, and that has fallen to Congress to defend those laws.
And by this, so you're taking the issue that because the Trump administration is not defending Obamacare, therefore Obamacare is going to fail, therefore it's going to be whose fault?
I don't care about fault. I care about people having access to quality health care. We had in the ACA 20 million more people that had access to health insurance. I can tell you as an employer who was paying for health insurance, I saw that cost curve begin to bend. It wasn't perfect, but I saw it begin to bend. What we are now doing is allowing the ACA to be whittled away at the end, and the Justice Department is not defending the laws of the United States. This is a first in our history. The Justice Department is not supposed to be partisan. They are supposed to be defending the laws of the United States,
We've had a lot of firsts. Well, the Justice Department is part of the executive branch. They can defend the laws as the president sees fit to direct them.
That's true, but we have co-equal branches. The laws are written by all three of us together.
So let's get to this issue of immigration, and now the president threatening to shut down the border. He's been warned about the economic implications of it. Obviously, this is something that Democrats and Republicans both see as a polarizing issue and a good political issue. You're from a swing district. You came in as a freshman Democrat here in this blue wave. Do you worry that your fellow Democrats are moving too far to the left for your district on this?
No, I don't, but I wish we would use a little bit more precise language. My colleague, Mr. Kinzinger, just mentioned, he used the word illegal immigration to talk about the crisis. What we have right now at the border is a surge in asylum seekers. Those people are trying to enter our country legally as asylum seekers.
We also have a surge in people coming across the border illegally and then asking for asylum.
No, we don't. It is not possible to come across and ask for asylum and be illegal. Now, when you come here seeking asylum, you are not a legal resident until your case has been processed, but you are not entering illegally.
Well, if you cross the border, you've committed a crime. Am I incorrect?
No, you're absolutely incorrect. If you come seeking asylum,
even if you don't cross at a port of entry,
as many of our ancestors did, if you come across and you say, I'm seeking asylum, as many people are right now, you are not a documented resident of the United States until such time as your claim has been processed. So you have a period where you are undocumented, but you are not violating any laws.
All right. Equal time. We had it for Mr. Kinzinger, for you as well, the gentleman from Illinois. Appreciate you being here. Come back anytime.
Thank you very much.